JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. July 1st, 2024. Welcome to the back half of the year, the start of third quarter, and the start of July. A little rough session to end the first half on Friday. Markets pulled back from highs, reversed 550 or so on a SPY, then all the way to lows, bounced at that 543 handle, close of 544.22. Some end of day shenanigans. And brings us to this week. Not much in the way of catalysts again. Earnings season kicks off July 12th, I believe, with the banks. Um, so still have kind of a week of kind of quiet time, I guess you would say. And then at the end of the month, we have the Fed meeting, July 30th and 31st. Um, so this week, so Powell's at the ECB. They have an annual meeting. It's a roundtable. So he'll be talking to the ECB president, um, or the ECB, the central bank president for the Eurozone, Lagarde, right? That'll be tomorrow. I don't know what time. I would assume it's going to be, if it's afternoon time Europe, it'll be morning here. But uh, so that's something to kind of take note of. Also, Wednesday's the Fed minutes, but the market closed at 1 o'clock. So I didn't look at the timing, so I have to take a look at that. But we'll get the Fed minutes on Wednesday, and then we get the June jobs report on Friday. So that's kind of those are kind of the data pieces this week. And we'll see if the market can kind of hold some gains. Already over the weekend, all these articles you read, so many negative headlines out there, some comparisons, um, how long it takes here once the Fed starts, scaling back, starts cutting rates. Is it gonna slow down the economy? Is that gonna be enough? Are they gonna be cutting rates to spur the economy? Just it's funny. This conversation narrative has been going on for quite some time. But needless to say, what I'm watching today, that 543 handle, if things do reverse today, watch to see if that holds. If it doesn't hold, maybe we have a couple day pullback and there'll be some opportunity to do some hedge puts. But on the flip side, I think that 550 handle got up to it on Friday. That's probably more likely the outcome this week. So I remain cautiously optimistic. And the other point of note is the small caps back-to-back green days outperformed Friday, outperformed Thursday. Hopefully another day of outperformance today. Um, and I think that'll bode well. And then I posted this already in the chat room. Uh, Leave it to Market Watch for the best headlines over the weekend and this morning. Stocks delivered a disturbing signal last week. Here's what it may mean. And then you look at all the headlines. Stocks will fall 30% as U.S. economy heads for a painful recession, strategist says. But these narratives, comments, headlines have been going on for the last decade. So not one of these days we will have a 30% pullback. Right? That stocks it'll happen at some point. It's just trying to time that. I mean, a lot of these folks try to time it and it's been bearish for the last decade and has not been too successful. All right, so individual names. So first, I'll start with the most obvious here. CHWY Roaring Kitty came out with that stake filing 13F this morning. Six over a 6% stake, but it was more symbolic. He bought 9 million and one share. It's like the symbolic number. So the question now, and then you have folks saying he doesn't have the cash for that, right? I mean, it's not 9 million at where well, you look at it now, it's a 280, $300 million position. That's on top of his GameStop position. Did he sell that? Is he using that as leverage for margin? Did he get Chewy calls a while back when the stock was in the 18s and 20s, and then exercise those? He had 20 calls, maybe 20, or even the $30 calls, and able to exercise. I don't know, So I always thought, well, I haven't over the last couple of weeks, that based on the last two earnings reports, that 35.40 it should trade up there on its own merits. And now you have this backdrop with Warren Kitty. I would assume he's going to schedule another YouTube video at some point, one of his little entertaining pieces, and he'll probably discuss his bull case on Chewy. That's what I would assume we do. So that could provide the next leg. So I'll just hold what I have now, the August 45s and the January 70s. They'll probably gain some premium today, which will be good. And if the August 45s are back to what I sold them on last week, I'll probably look to lock some of those in. But funny, he fills out the SEC filing, and he's able to change the box. It says check the appropriate box to designate whether you are a cat. And he says, and the two options, I am a cat, I am not a cat. Just it's almost like spitting in the face of SEC. Here's an official SEC document, and I wouldn't call doctoring it, but I mean that's certainly yeah, it's kind of what Elon Musk used to do when he used to tweet some specific things at the SEC. But yeah, he has a 6.6% stake, and Yeah, 9,001,000 is his position. So that's a large position. All right, so that's Chewy. So that's what I'll do with Chewy. Not going to talk too much about that. Roku up 7 sessions in a row. Another green session on Friday, despite the market weakness. I think that bodes well. Still held the 50-day moving average, which is now 50. It's at 5807. Kathy Woods adding. She added more last week. I'm not. That's not the stamp of approval these days, but one of these times it will. I think the stock heads 65 plus in the coming week or two, and then I think it trades over 70. Maybe get some FOMO. We have some. There's gap fills on the chart. There's a gap right about 71. And then you go up, there's a gap all the way up at 90. I don't know if it's going to go to 90 would be phenomenal. It would probably take some catalyst to get there. Maybe it's next earnings report. So that's Roku. Square, which I have July strikes, which are kind of, I wouldn't say wrote off yet. There's still time, but the stock has been really has struggled to find footing, and it maybe finally it's closed green 1, 2, 3, 6 of the past 8 sessions, albeit not large gains, and it seems to be somewhat like holding its ground. And the 200-day moving average at 65. If it breaks 65, I'm going to get some August calls today to add to my Julys. I do these rants over and over about disrupting the financial sector and some of the names that are great plays on that. And Square to me is front and center. And considering its last earnings report back in was it February? Oh, maybe it was the earnings before. Phenomenal report. This most recent caused some, I guess, concerns, but I think it's bounced here. This is pretty much, in my opinion, the bottom, and I think it heads higher. Fizz, lots of more of my strikes in on Friday. Another name after its earnings up, what was it, 18%, something like that. 20. I forget exactly what it rallied on Thursday. And Friday it held the gains. When you have such a huge move on earnings and then it holds the gains the next day, that just to me that bodes well for more upside. I think 55 or so. I did a little market research. When I say market research, the I'm not a buyer of their seltzer products, but they had some new flavors. The limoncello, pretty phenomenal. Some people don't like it, uh, but when you're charging a premium for a brand, a product that there's a lot of competition, and you're able to show why it should be a premium brand, their flavors are, in my opinion, very, very premium if you try it. So and couple that with their energy drink offering that's doing very well. I think it trades higher in the coming weeks. I'll continue to hold the last. I only have a couple left on my strikes. Not going to add any more either because of a volatile name. Um, and then AMD, I added again some calls. At some point, this is going to outperform at 10% in a matter of 3 to 5 days. I mean, not I keep saying 230 was where it was back in March. I'm not saying because it was 230 in March, that's where it's headed. It's going to go back to. But I think there's more to the story. At some point, people are going to pile in. It looked like it was going to start to break out on Friday. And that was with the other chip names selling off. AMD was outperforming. So similar to the IWM, I think it's going to outperform at some point. Not when it does, the calls are going to be up 500, 800, 1,000%, if not higher. And then last but not least is Exogen. That was one of my top 5 stocks back in the day. Raymond James came out with a positive analyst note or initiation. $13 price target. Stock sits here at $7.40. Company that does grafting for nerves. It's a great niche market. Surprised the stock isn't. It's still. I would call it languishes down here at $7. At some point that takes off. But I've been in calls before and it hasn't taken off. So I'm gonna wait for it to maybe show some strength. It was at $10 back in March, so that could be a spot maybe for a gap fill. And I think that's about it. Over the weekend, if you read the Barron's front cover, they talked about the 0 days to expiration options. It seems as the option market, and not saying it wasn't popular 5 or 10 years ago, but it continues to grow in popularity, and now it's a great great narrative. So there was a nice article if you get a chance to read it, and I think it just brings more attention uh, to the option market as a whole. And I think that's about it, folks. I'll be back on audio later. Let's have a great day. And again, don't forget markets 1 p.m. Wednesday, and closed on Thursday. So it's a short week. Rock and roll.